Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show. Hi, it's Paul here from New Zealand Sports Radio, giving you a quick chat about rugby this weekend. Obviously, we've had the Super Rugby Alpaki, and also the Six Nations as well, all going on this weekend. So lots and lots of rugby to talk about and too much to watch, I'm afraid. But I'll let you know which ones I have seen, which ones I haven't seen. And I've not got any help here today to help me out with the ones I haven't seen. But hey, we will soldier through, don't you worry. Now, don't forget, folks, that the DrivingMaul show comes to 8 p.m. every single Monday. And you can watch it on the New Zealand Sports Radio Facebook page, the @DrivingMaul Twitter account, or New Zealand Sports Radio, anyway, YouTube. Also, you can catch the podcast on recording. So just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcatcher as well. And don't forget, if you want to support this channel, you can go over to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio and support me there. And also there's exclusive content on there for you as well, some of which I'll tell you about during the show. Good evening to Simon, who is in the live chat. And look, an area that we haven't been covering as much recently is some of the tier 2 stuff. And Simon does say congratulations to Georgia, who beat Spain to retain the European International Championship, and also Spain going to the Rugby World Cup, as he pointed out to us in the live chat last week as well, because of Russia being basically banned from rugby competition. So Spain off to 2023 in France. Not that long away, is it? With that one, and hence why I put a tweet out at the end after the French game, which was basically saying congratulations to France to winning the Six Nations. A lot of us are already thinking about them as favourites for Rugby World Cup, but let's not wish our lives away, folks. There's a lot of good rugby between now and next year to come. Over in Super Rugby then, and boy, oh boy, it has been a bit of a mess. And sorry, I'm just going to open up a can of beer on the old mower today. One thing I did do at the weekend, if you haven't seen, is head over to Twitter, and you can see my mock-up of my beer can chair that I'll be gluing together as soon as the rain stops here in New Zealand. A bit of a storm come through today. But what a mess the Super Rugby turned into with COVID breakouts in the Blues, Crusaders, and Highlanders, meaning that all three teams could not play. That meant we had one game in New Zealand at the weekend, which was the Chiefs against Moana Pacifica, catching up on one of their earlier games. The game against the Highlanders, the game against so the Hurricanes were supposed to play the Chiefs, but they decided it's better off to try and catch up one of those Moana Pacifica games, which makes a lot of sense in that one. Simon's saying, in hindsight, the bubble should have stayed for a little while. I'm not sure hindsight really had that much in it. Essentially, we knew there was a peak of COVID Omicron in New Zealand coming. It was well on the way at the time. And that this was a likely scenario if they came out of the bubble. Unfortunately, the players basically didn't like the coach trips from Queenstown to Dunedin. Now, why they didn't use Invercargill, which was closer, I don't know. I'm assuming that Sky, for the TV coverage, preferred Dunedin and Forsyth Bar than it did to Rugby Park in Invercargill for that one. So, definitely was the players. Also, as we've seen with the Super Rugby CEOs come out and put a letter out this week or just for the weekend saying, hey, we want crowds back in our stadium so we can get some money, which was a bit tone deaf considering three teams had COVID and couldn't play. I think the CEOs of the Super Rugby teams also wanted them out of the bubble so they could actually get some revenue from ticket sales. So basically a lot of people involved wanting to get out of that bubble and get out of the travel and perhaps not really thinking of the bigger picture and actually having the games go ahead. So that's I think this was this that. So yeah, you say hindsight, but you see the Super Rugby Alpaca has gone into a bubble just as Super Rugby was coming out of a bubble. So you could tell that New Zealand Rugby were aware as to what was going to go on. Just some poor decision making and some people who are not prepared to take the sacrifices required for that to happen. Now, I get it. The All Blacks could be basically not seeing their family again until December, essentially, which would have been part of it. But there you go with that one. Someone goes, interesting what the percentage of revenue is from crowd attendance compared to TV. Yes, it is bigger for TV, but the TV goes to New Zealand Rugby, whereas the crowd goes to the actual Super Rugby franchises themselves. So it's not just about the amount of money, but it's kind of like, where does the money go? Who gets that money? And therefore, what are the drivers for the different people will be different depending on where that money goes. And as he points out, the Super Rugby has got a new multi-year TV deal over in the UK with Sky Sports in the UK and Ireland. So it's good to see that they can watch the games as well, if they're happening. But yes, all a bit of a mess, let's be honest. This coming weekend, obviously we don't know yet just which games will and won't be going ahead. I did ask the Chiefs media manager yesterday, hey, when will we find out which games are happening? And he was like, yeah, let me, I'd like to know as well, please. So no one knows, or I couldn't find any information out behind the scenes as to what may or may not be happening this coming weekend. So Australia, though, they seem to be able to have kept things going, and we had the full round of fixtures over there. So we first off, we had the Brumbies beating the Reds 16-12 in that one. Obviously, the top two teams in Australia going head-to-head in a tight one. James O'Connor missing a couple of conversions, which would have been the difference to make this one a draw and head us into golden points for this one. Shows you the tight margins at the top of the game. So a tight one there. I'll be honest, not much I can say. This one, I didn't step and watch this one. I had my daughters this weekend, which made it a bit harder for me to see this one. But I'll obviously try and catch up on the highlights at some point. I've not been able to today. But yeah, Brumbies doing the business over the Reds. The Reds also been looking better over the past couple of weeks. Not up to their not up to top speed yet, but good to see them holding the Brumbies in a tight contest there, because I thought the Brumbies might take that one a little bit easier than that, to be honest with you. We then had the Fijian Drua up against the Western Force. Drua obviously with the win already this season, up over the Rebels coming into this one. And when it went to 8-17, you thought, look, the Force have got this one kind of under control, especially as they scored that try, the last try there, under the yellow card. But again, the Drua came back like they did against the Reds as well, wasn't it, the other weekend, to get things to within 1 point. A missed penalty meant that they couldn't edge themselves into the lead. They took a 1 point lead. Sorry, a missed penalty meant they couldn't stretch it out, and a penalty after the hooter had gone got the win for the Western Force. So Fiji and Drua are doing a real good job of making comebacks in the second half of games. So again, definitely don't switch your TV off if you're watching these ones, because big comebacks by the Fiji and Drua does seem to be their style in this one. This season, over 1,000 meters of running in this one, which is a lot of running, which is good obviously makes for fun rugby in this one. As Simon said, it was game of the round. Offloads, 19 offloads by the Fiji and Drua, really playing to type in that kind of sense with that one. The Western Force using their more structured game plan to get themselves into the victory in that one. And coming in to save me from an hour of monologuing, I've got Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Paul. Always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the show, even if it is a little late this evening. I do apologise to everybody, but work beckons, and what was a very unusual day in the 09. It started off with some precipitation of biblical precautions and proportions, and ended up basically a hot, steamy, sunny afternoon. So just shows you how weird it can be in the 09.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a not entirely dissimilar job to yourself, and so I had to put off 3 client visits today because of the weather, and said to phone up and get head office to move those all to tomorrow, because as you say, not safe to drive around today in some conditions, and I got absolutely drenched in the 2 shops I did go to. But there we go. Stephen, what was your weekend of rugby watching like? Lots of sitting in front of the box, or did you get out and about as well?
Yeah, it was. Well, like a lot of families around New Zealand, we've unfortunately COVID is found its way into the house, but it's left just as quickly as well, which for me was a little bit disappointing. I'm gonna because I was hoping to actually get down to Hamilton for the birthday of a friend of the show, one John O'Connor, and a very belated 50th birthday, John, if you're tuning into the show. I hope everything went well down in the Tron. I'm pretty sure it did, Paul, but basically, no, not really. Not a lot you can do, and I thank God there's a lot of sport on, and thank God there was a little bit of Super Rugby as well as Opiki Rugby as well, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely, and also congratulations to Con, whose wife has given birth to a baby yesterday as well. So congratulations to them. So yeah, weekend of celebrations for some of the DrivingMaul family or extended family for that one. Virginia drew good comebacks, beat the West, just missing out to the Western Force, and really I think a lot of people saying showing the Fiji should have been included in Super Rugby many years ago, and what a joy it is getting them in there. A few questions on Twitter, especially from European people, saying, okay, how much of the Fijian national side is part of this Drua team? Not that many. The majority of them are playing in Europe, and because of the late timing of when they got their contracts, they haven't managed to sign that many. But we do have a number of sevens in there. We do have a number of other some sort of fringe national team members in there. So it's not totally devoid of internationals, but it's mainly got the sevens guys in there at the moment, rather than the 15s. I'm going to head down a rabbit hole here, Stephen. Because it's just kind of one of the points that came up in sort of discussing all this or their scheduling, their selection was that this was actually going to perhaps be detrimental to the sevens team for Fiji. And with Fiji obviously being the best men's sevens team in the world, but with the Six Nations teams pretty much universally taking the cash out of their sevens teams, is the future the 15s, and are Fiji perhaps better served focusing on 15s, as the All Blacks and USA might be the only other credible, and South Africa might be the only other credible opposition in sevens.
Yeah, interesting. The sevens game up in Fiji is very strong, Paul. I know there's a tournament that's held up in Coral Coast, usually in roundabout, I think it's October, November, I think it is, or it might even be earlier in the year, beg your pardon. I'm sure somebody, maybe one of our listeners could correct us. There are some good sides that rock up in this club competition that could knock over a lot of international teams on a given day. So I don't think they lack for talent, and that talent is always coming through in their junior ranks. In terms of the Drua, I think what the Drua is already showing, it's already promoting a few guys, maybe to that top Fijian side. We saw how very competitive Fiji were against the All Blacks last year in those early tests, where probably some of those final scorelines didn't really do justice to how Fiji had actually played in both tests, put the All Blacks under a ton of pressure at breakdown. And once again, we're seeing guys like Mera and Nagusa, the captain, who are all showing they are very, very good players and more than holding their own in Super Rugby. And we're seeing that with Ravovo at second five, who's just been a revelation. So all of a sudden it's building another level of depth that they don't always have to go too far to get. It's within an arm's reach, Paul, and you don't have to negotiate with clubs to get those players on board when they are playing those mid-year tests, especially end of year. Well, that's always tough, as we know, but at least you've got that extra depth coming through. And, you get a guy like Frank Lamani, who's a world-class halfback. And, in those last two games, what he's brought to this team, I think is just given them a little bit more of a spark.
Yeah, look, and one of the things we've said about this, some of the All Blacks players, like Carl Tuanakapi, it's opportunities. There are players out there who can do it. They just need it, and luck and timing and opportunity does play a part in all of this as well. So scouting is perhaps going to be the Drew's biggest issue, and if you get the scouting right, the other bits will look after itself, kind of thing. I do think there were some comments about Shane Kerr wasn't playing at the weekend, but I thought the previous weekend he proved to be a bit of a turnstile at fullback. Happy. I think he's come in, helped perhaps settle things down, and then just disappear into the background. Might be nice for him, and let the Fijians actually play.
Yeah, you're right, Paul. I think he was one of those pickups because they thought, here's a guy with a bit of experience, might win us some games just with his boot alone. But I think what you've got to take into account, it's been a few years since Baden Kerr has played this level of Super Rugby, and of course, I don't think he's ever been the greatest defender anyway, and I think probably even more exposed as he's gone into that number 15 jersey. But also, I just want to quickly touch on another player as well in the front row, Kaleo Pasi Ului Lakepa, who we all know has had his issues in and around conditioning. All of a sudden, he's rocked across to the Drua, lost about 12 or 13 kgs, and doesn't look a bad sort of, half-bad sort of loose head prop. And, all of a sudden, here's another prop that maybe with a little bit more time in the saddle could go on to play international rugby for Fiji.
Maybe the fact that they're away from family in Australia in a kind of in camp kind of thing, where a nutritionist is looking after his meals might be helping as well. So who knows when they get back to normality if he still keeps the kgs off. Yeah.
Maybe being away from Burger King and Whangarei obviously helps Paul.
Oh dear! Look, sometimes it's good to have your network around you, and sometimes it's good to get away from people who are perhaps not the best influence to professional life as well on that one. Yes, a good another good performance by the Drua. But not the win this time. Western Force showing that they are kind of probably a third team actually, I'm trying to think the order now of the teams in Australia. Probably the Brumbies, Reds, Waratahs, Force, Drua, and then your Rebels at the bottom there. So putting themselves into that competition force there along with the Waratahs. Moving on then, and we had the first game at Mount Smart, or the first competition game at Mount Smart for Moana Pacifica, up against the Chiefs, the same as their pre-season game, but the pre-season game was a game of 3/3 rather than halves. Pardon me. So this was going to be different. Look, the Chiefs went out to be big winners in the end. The Chiefs missing something like 18 to 20 players through COVID in this, but still put a team out there with only one halfback in Brad Webber, which meant that he had to play through the whole of the game there. And a game that was kind of in the balance until around half time when The Chiefs went bang, bang. Nawaya scored a good try just before half-time. James Lowe won after half-time, and suddenly it went from being 7-12 out to 7-24, and the game was gone at that point. So one that, the Moana managed to keep themselves in it for the first 40 minutes, but then, as I say, because it was that one try just after the hooter, and that essentially was where it all went out, where it all went wrong, and they just ran out of puff, really.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And I think the other factor to throw into the equation as well, that was their second game since the 5th of February as well, remembering that they have already played the Crusaders and put in a sterling effort there. And once again, leading into halftime, it looked like that the Chiefs might just go in with a 5-point lead, but that try just before halftime to Imoni Narawa I think just broke their back, but more importantly as well, they'd been on several warnings in and around their discipline as well, and just at times not really treating position with a little bit more care is what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
I mean, they did get territory and possession at 40-42%, so they did have some. So it wasn't a totally dominant game, but it was was dominating the whole game. But the Chiefs were just more clinical around putting away their opportunities in that in that second half there. A few players that haven't had much game time with the Chiefs. Caleb Trusk, someone who runs much bigger than his weight. A player that I always feel a bit scared for because he runs into bigger bodies a lot and has had some injuries in the past. Narawa, we talked about, but also Ramiki Pohipi got some game time as well. Lachlan McFunnell came back into the side. So, and Hamilton Burr on debut as well, the Scottish player who plays for Waikato. So, yeah, look, I mean, a bit of a mixed match. Or a team from the Chiefs, but they still got the job done with that one. And then finally, the Waratahs played the Rebels. I say another one I've not seen. It was late in this one, but one where the Waratahs 14-6 at half time. Finished with the Rebels coming back in the second half to lose by just 5 points, 24-19. But looking at the stats on this one, Stephen, the Rebels had plenty of opportunities in this one, dominating territory and possession, but their tackling was woeful, and they just turned the ball over, coughed the ball up 20 times. That is pretty horrendous, and gave up 14 scrums. That's another 14 knock-ons and 20 turnovers. They really were, giving the game to the Tars. Yeah,
just did right, Paul. They just left themselves just far too much to do. There was some, like you say, they are capable of holding on to the ball for long periods, but they tend to go, from side to side, and that's very much where they get punished. Is when they basically do lose the ball, and there's turnovers, and probably better illustrated by Foketi with his try, whilst it was a very, very good individual try. Once again, it just really came from originally just the turnover ball, and then a few minutes later, probably the best try of the game scored by Will Harris, who certainly making a statement at this level of rugby. Remembering a year ago, this Waratahs team, they just seemed like a young bunch, but a lot of these guys are starting to stand up in their second year. And I see a Wallaby squad. You might want to talk about that later. There's a few Waratahs in the Wallaby squad as well. As for the Rebels, they showed a little bit of heart towards the end, but I don't think they ever seriously threatened to win this game whilst probably getting a lot closer than a lot of us had thought.
Yeah, I think a lot closer than others had thought. And joining us is Boa. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you. Sorry for the lateness. Club rugby commitments took a little bit longer than I anticipated on a Monday night, but no, good to be on the show, and it's always nice to be part of the show. So I hope everyone is well, and hope everyone's humming along.
I was about to say, boy, with that beige shirt on, I thought you might have been out in the mangroves or the estuary of South Auckland there.
Well, I was yesterday in anticipation of the storm today. So hopefully got everything I wanted to do yesterday and I avoided today, which was a very, very bad weather day.
That it was, and I thought it was more Beige Brigade than perhaps that, but with the old cricket that's been going on recently. But there we go. So that's sort of the round of Super Rugby. One of the things, there's two stats I've been looking at over the first 4 rounds to see, because I had this theory that basically as the rounds went on, we would basically teams would get better and less rusty, and therefore some of these stats should change. Now I'm not sure if you can really read this, so I'll just perhaps show it in two halves instead. But what I've collected is the number of scrums and number of turnovers per round. As you can see, in the first couple of rounds there we had 19 and 18 scrums on. This is average number per game, and 27 and 28 turnovers. Rounds 2 and 4, again 18 and 17 scrums, not much change there, and turnovers at 28 and 24. And then in this last round, we've dropped now down to 16 scrums per game, and 20 back, but up slightly to 26 turnovers again. So from looking at the stats there, what I'm seeing is perhaps a decreasing number of, there is a decreasing number of scrums per game, which suggests that handling is getting better, and that players are more aware of where each other is for passing, and are putting more passes are going to hand. But the number of turnovers seems to be not significantly going down. Okay, it was 27 and 28 over the first 3 rounds. We're at 26 now, but that's up from last week. So the efficiency at the ruck doesn't seem to have improved as much as I thought it might do from an attacking point of view. But the handling does seem to improve. Do you feel that's what's happened over the? Actually, you're the stats expert, Boa. Do you think that's what we're seeing?
Look, one key point, and this is something I've been tracking over the Super Rounds, is the policing of the breakdown is very loose. It's very casual. Sometimes it resembles, Olympic diving in a pool. Players constantly leaving their feet. And this is an area which is not being policed the way it's supposed to be. For me, one of the biggest frustrations from a coaching point of view is players leaving their feet and simply piling on the tackle player using their forearms and basically wedging and sealing the ruck off, effectively killing the contest, the breakdown. So what this does is it then reflects as if the possession, the flow of possession is a lot better, albeit through illegal tactics. Whereas if you go back a couple of seasons when a memo came out from World Rugby as well as New Zealand Rugby saying that, the would-be tackler, if he's going to contest the ball at the breakdown, you only get one chance. You have to hold your body position, hold your shape. You can't lose your footing. And as soon as you go over, you go over that point of no return, it's going to be a penalty. So this year we're not seeing that, and that is now reflecting on exactly what you're stating. So it's not necessarily the quality of the game has actually improved. It's just that this particular area is not being policed the way it's supposed to. My only fear is that this will not necessarily convert to a successful formula once the international season starts, because we saw this last year when the All Blacks played. We simply got our backsides handed to us in the breakdown, particularly in the ruck area. So I'm starting to see a similar pattern going forward. It's what we call a lazy ruck, where players will just come in, basically fall over, get into that bear crawl position, and seal the ball off.
Keith has pointed this out as well in the saying the All Blacks, if they do what they're doing, they're going to get pinged. So interesting. We'll see how. I'll keep a track of those scrums and turnovers there in that one and see how it changes. Now remember, that's not just for the New Zealand teams; it's also for the Australian teams as well. That's in there. So it's across both of them, and as to how both of them might appear or might fare when it comes to international rugby. And remember, the All Blacks have got Ireland coming up, one of the form teams in World Rugby, as long as they can keep Johnny Sexton fit. So that is there, and we'll keep an eye on that one over the next few of them. Now, Nocturnal Right says the consistent skill level is less than previous years, I'm a little disappointed. Yes, I get that, but I think what we also, and it's a question I put to some of the coaches in Super Rugby Aupaki. I've not done so in Super Rugby, the men's game side of things, was just that what does it feel like as a coach not knowing which player is going to be available today for training? When you've got up to 20 players, which I think the Chiefs have got have got somewhere between 18 and 20 players missing, according to reports, and they actually played at the weekend. Whereas when you think that the Highlanders, the Blues, and the Crusaders will have similar, if not more, numbers than that. If you don't know who you got training each week or each day, and that's very disruptive, and it's difficult to get the skill level right, isn't it, boys?
Yeah. Absolutely. Things like combinations is a really big thing, and you can't grow combinations if you're practically bringing in 60 or 70% of new players.
So,
Paul and Steve, one thing I have to say is with this whole COVID situation, I think high performance NZR have to be a little bit more flexible and give coaches of the super franchises more discretion on who actually plays. Forget about managing minutes. Forget about wrapping players in cotton wool. You just you pick your best side and play them. Give them the game time and run them every week. Of course, you have to manage injuries and certain workloads. But what's actually happening is we're using a template which was 2 years old in 2022. And from a coaching point of view, this to me is a big question mark. And hopefully this does not show its ugly head once we enter into the international season.
So I think it will impact the if we continue this way for the rest of Super Rugby, then it's clearly going to impact the players heading into that international season. The All Blacks tend to have their slowest game first game up. Ireland have never won in New Zealand, so that first Test match I think is going to be their best opportunity, and we'll just have to wait and see how that all pans out with that one. Moving on to Super Rugby Aupaki, we've had 2 rounds since the last show. In round 2, we saw the Chiefs beat the Hurricanes 29-8, and the Blues beat Mata'atu 21-10. That was followed up this weekend with on Sunday with Mata'atu losing to the Hurricanes 6-18, and the Blues losing to the Chiefs 0-35. Not a great, it wasn't really a final, but it was a final in everything but name there in that one. And because it was so dominated by the Chiefs, particularly in the second half. In the first half, less so, but they pulled away with it. But what have been your thoughts from what you've been seeing from Super Rugby Aupaki?
Well, again, the focus on core skills, the breakdown, physicality, ball handling, and also playing basics. I think that area needs to be inspected quite thoroughly. And also, I have to say, very disappointed with the way the Blues got hiding by 35 points to zip. And I think, Steve, you shared some video footage of the teams. And yeah, you're right. You bang on the money there because it really reflects on your attitude on the day. And when you're playing first-class rugby at the highest level for your region, you've got to turn up and be serious about it. So it was very inconsistent. The skill level was sort of up and down. I wasn't particularly happy about the contacts and collisions. There were a lot of high shots, and that's usually a direct correlation with fitness and conditioning. And again, you have to keep in mind this whole thing got jammed into 11 days. So look, to me, it wasn't the ideal tournament it was made out to be. But under the circumstances, it is what it is. But overall, I have to say, very underwhelming. Very, very underwhelming.
Yeah, obviously COVID didn't help things. I see that particular game. I think that was very much the Chiefs' 4th game, if you included their first preseason game against Mata'atu, where I think the Blues have probably only played, they may have played may have had a pre-season hit out, and then we count that one game they had against Matatu last week. And to be honest, they're a side that
no preseason hit out. They had 20-minute contact session.
Yeah, no preseason hit-outs whatsoever. You think back to their win last week. I thought they were a little bit fortunate against Matatu. I thought Matatu were the better side or looked the more fluent side. And I don't think this Blues team ever looked that fluent. But I just quickly want to touch on what the video that I sent through for anybody who's watching the show. I know when it comes to women's sport, criticism can be a really sensitive point in this day and age. But the video basically shows the Chiefs team walking out, and they just looked amped for it. You know, there looked like a quiet, staunch confidence where the Blues basically ran out and they were high-fiving everybody in the crowd, and it's not. It should be fun. Sport should be fun, but at that particular level, you know, you can have your fun as well, and you can switch on when you go to work, and it just had that impression about it. And of course, when they were stuck under the pump, they really didn't handle it at the end of the day, despite what I thought with the official was a bit of an inconsistent performance for mine. But I'm saying that's not decrying anything away from the Chiefs. Manawa, they were the dominant side of this competition, and they deserve this inaugural title, no question whatsoever. But unfortunately for me, there's a lot of unanswered questions as well.
I've got three video clips of post-match interviews to talk about some of these issues we're talking about here, so you can see that the players think and the coaches think around some of these things. You're quite right. There's you've got a whole bunch of players here. You've got within the Chiefs, as you say, the ones that had the best preparation in the fact that they had all those games. They also played last year in that exhibition game as well. They've got 5 players in that pack that have started all 5 games. So the exhibition game, the preseason game, and 3 games here. So the front row, the number 8 and the number 7 have played every single game. Started every single game. So that level of connectivity is just not there with the other teams. Next up, they've also, if you look at their back line, who have they got in there? They've got Stacey, Kelly Brazier, Portia, Ruby Tui, a number of players who are used to being full-time professional athletes and know what it means to be a full-time professional athlete. You compare that to the other teams where you've got a player I did an interview with, and I can't think if I published it or not, from the Blues, who's doing a postgraduate degree, doing a graduate degree, I think it is, or postgraduate degree in patent law with Fisher and Paykel, who is having to continue doing that within the bubble. Got told a week beforehand, "Hey, we've got an injury. Can you come down and play?" And she's starting at 6 for the Blues. That's the different levels we've got here within this. Has this got a long? Is this the finished article? Absolutely nowhere near. Right, there's a lot of things wrong with this, but we are in season. And I talked to a player who's played Super W, and we talk about the differences between them, or at least some of them. Super W is in its 5th year this year. We're in our 1st year. Why is New Zealand Rugby slow to the party? That's another issue entirely. That's one of the issues here that's causing this. Is that these players just don't have the experience of how to behave, how to act, what it takes to win games. And I think we saw that with the Blues running out there. They just didn't know what they were letting themselves in for. A lot of those players. Some of those players have never been in a bubble or in a high performance environment like they are now, where they're actually training every day. And it's like, wow, I get up and have breakfast is there, and well, this is all this is all strange to me. Actually, let's just have a quick listen from the Blues captain Aroha Savage about some of this stuff.
The player seeing a competition like this, do you think this is what New Zealand needs so that those players who are in FPC can get ready for, that international Blackburns environment?
Oh, definitely. We've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time now. And judging by the last tour for the Blackburns, the Northern Tour, you can just tell that we're quite a bit behind in terms of experience at the next level. So having this opportunity for the girls to play at a higher level than FPC is just awesome. And to be honest, the preparation was probably not the best with the COVID happening and all the bubble life and all that kind of stuff. So whether player welfare was prioritised or not is pretty questionable, because the quality of the game could have been far more better if it was pushed. The tournament was pushed out a bit. So the preparation could have been so much better for the players in general. I'm talking. So yeah.
Looking at
for one of the players to actually say player welfare, was it really taken into account? It's very rare to see someone come out and say that. Well done to her for saying it, because no one else did. I'll be blunt. But yeah, this was not, she said that, look, we have not been given the opportunity basically to play like we should do because of this. It's not been right. But it's happened, which is better than not happening. But it's, to me, that's about the most we can take out. Is a couple of players have been able to put their hands up for Blackburn selection that might not have done. But apart from that, I think it's more a matter of it just happened, and that it's a long, long way to go to make this a proper competition. We'll just quickly hear from Alan Bunting, who is the Chiefs head coach for this, as well, to one of the comments he made about this. And remember, this is the team that we've said was the best prepared, has had the most games, and was the best out of all the teams.
It's great, all the best players around the country all coming together and competing. It's great, but I feel like right now we're ready to probably have had enough preparation to start the competition. The competition started now and played from this point. I think you'll see a better quality games.
So there, as he's saying, basically, we're now ready to play rugby. This is effectively what a pre-season should have been. Is what the tournament has been. And we're talking here about the best team there. They're like, yes, now we're ready to play some rugby. And it's like, wow, okay, yeah, this. There's. It's not only you guys that have made some comments about the refereeing. I've seen some in various articles and stuff I've read as well. And again, the referees are not used to playing at this level, are not used to refereeing at this level and at this pace and with these players, and they need to up their game as well. Every single part of this tournament needs to be more professionalized. There is no, probably the only bit that was fully professional is the coverage from Sky. Is the same level as anything else. Everything else is Heartland Championship level, and has got a long way to go to become super, to be honest.
Yeah, Paul, in summary, I think they were sold a dummy, a really big dummy.
Well, the players or Sky, or who's been sold a dummy?
Oh, I think the players were sold a really big dummy. Seriously, in terms of the way it's, if you think about the preparation, the build-up that these teams had, I think only one of those teams had the best possible preparation. As far as I'm concerned, probably the next one was probably Matatu, who probably played 3 games, and I can't recall if the Poa had basically played too many preseason games as well.
No,
Paul.
so Matatu played preseason and 4 games. Yeah. Poa had a 20-minute contact hit out the same weekend as round 1 with the Blues, just to make sure their players wouldn't die when it came to actually playing a game, essentially. Yeah. So basically that's the problem here is that players, as I've said, the majority, or at least half, probably more, over half of these players are only contracted for these few weeks. Mm. They got COVID at the beginning, they lost a couple of weeks, and they couldn't move the end date because they've all got to go back to work, and they lose over half their players. So I get what Roja Savage was saying that, we should have pushed the tournament out. Unfortunately, they couldn't, and it was rock and a hard place. What do we do? Do we cancel it and then not have a tournament at all, or do we put this together? And as Nocturnal Right says, it's a start. And as I say, the fact that it happened, in fact, a couple of players managed to put their hands up for Black Ferns is all we've got from this, and a lot of lessons on how to do it better.
Yeah, but we'll leave it on a positive note. If anything, it probably highlighted a few girls that I'd never seen before play at a higher level. Kerry Stillinger, who was the the first 5 for Hurricanes Poa. She just basically showed what a classy footballer she is. Got a good offload game, very good goal kicker. So and there's a couple of others. Even in that beaten Blues team, I thought the 2 young locks stood out relatively well. So there was some positives to come out of it.
I've been sort of negative about the thing as a whole. I've enjoyed going along to the games. I've enjoyed watching the games. I've enjoyed interacting with them. And I'd like to finish off with a interview with Michaela Leonard, one of 2 Wallaroos who has been playing in this competition. Now, she's been playing Super W, so I thought it'd be good to ask her, how does Super Rugby Aupiki compared to Super W?
Been able to do much travel because of the bubbles and being stuck in hotel rooms in Taupo. But this is obviously the first year of this, and Super W has been going up. Well, this will be its 5th year. How is it compared to Super W over in Australia?
Yeah, so there's that little difficulty in comparing them with that COVID bubble format that we've had this year. We saw it last year over in Australia for the same reasons. Outside of that, I think the formatting makes it difficult. It's such a short period of time for the teams to gel and to actually get their structures going. That said, I think the mana and the spirit in the Matatu whānau has been incredible, and it's been amazing to be part of and to get out there and see what the girls can put out. I think the competition as a whole, the speed of the game has probably been something that's I've noticed the most. Just that free-flowing game that you guys love to play over here has been really cool and really, I guess, a challenge to experience and adjust to. I think there's, having that benefit that we've had 5 seasons over in Oz and this is the first season, there are some differences, in, as I mentioned, just that gelling, continuity of play, teams being pretty new, having not much time together, which I'm sure will grow as Super Aupiki grows and continues on. But yeah, I can't wait to see how they both develop and hopefully see Trans-Tasman in the next few years.
Absolutely. So we go. So talking there about this, it's got a lot of gelling and a lot of growing, just getting comfortable and things to go. So I will put that full interview up on my Patreon page. So if you would like to get the full interview with her, I talked to her about how she got her opportunity over here as well. Then patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio, and I put it up over there as a podcast with my chat I had with her after the game as well. Six Nations boys. Now, since Beau has already been talking about how will the All Blacks cope when it comes to the international season, the final round of Six Nations. Apparently, Italy should be kicked out of the tournament, Beau. But they somehow beat Wales.
Well, to be fair, there were no red cards this year for Wales. I think that was the key difference. And look, to be fair, Italy won thanks to one man's, brilliance. That was out of this world. Look, Italy have been playing good rugby in patches, but they just haven't been, finishing it off. It just so happened that the perfect draw. They met Wales without red cards, and that finally gave them an opportunity to break the duck. But yeah, look, in all fairness, that was it was a riveting finish. You couldn't kind of write it in a Hollywood script the way the game finished. And the very last moment when the Italian winger made the break and he was staring down on the right-hand corner, you could actually see the medic pointing towards the ball. And then the Dutch judge actually slaps his hand down and races to make sure that he stays abreast with the play. And then there's a brilliant inside pass.
Yeah.
Fullback hung on to it and went under the sticks. And once that kick went over, I mean, it was theatre, and you couldn't ask for a better place. And now it's of course called Millennium, but Millennium Stadium, Cardiff Arms Park, one of the greatest sporting theatres in the world. Well done, Italy. It was one for the highlight reel.
It's not Cardiff Arms Park. Cardiff Arms Park is down the road where Cardiff plays. That's the original Cardiff Arms Park. This is Millennium Stadium, now called something else. But Millennium Stadium is the real name.
Under Armour Stadium, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, some sponsor there. I did like how was it Josh Adams who got the man of the match, and he gave his man of the match medal to the Italian winger at the end, because he's like, yeah, no, you're the man of the match. Here's the medal. Well done.
I think part of that might be the fact that along with Toby Faletau, both him and Toby Faletau got their communication wrong, and of course the man Angie Kupuozo found his way through that gap and then scooted down the sideline, and of course I sent you guys a video clip of an Italian commentary which sounded more like a football commentary, but I thought the only thing that was missing from a commentary was Angie Kupuozo, remember the name. I thought that was about the only thing that probably we didn't have, but man, it was a great bit of skill. It was a great run. And boy, he's listed in Wikipedia at 68 kgs, although a couple of other people have said to me he's more around the 76 kg mark. But my God, that makes him 4 kgs lighter than Damien McKenzie. That's pretty small for international rugby. But boy, what a way to bring yourself into international rugby. You score 2 tries off the bench a week ago against Scotland, and of course you basically mastermind the winning try against Wales, a game that you haven't won for 7 years. My God, I reckon he would have been on the front page of most Italian newspapers when the Azaru basically arrived home.
Yeah, it's very well done with them to get that win. They have been better this season. Unfortunately, injuries have been a real issue for them. They've got one of the thinnest players, one of the smallest player pools, and therefore one of the thinnest squads. When they lose a few players, they really struggle. So to get this win is fantastic at the end of the tournament. Obviously, Wayne Pivac now having gone from getting sort of they were champions but not Grand Slam, weren't they, from last year? Because the last calendar year there were 5 red cards given to teams playing Wales, which must be a record. I can't imagine any other team has ever had that 5 red cards against teams against them in a calendar year. This year, look, again, Italy have got Wales have also got all their injuries, but Wales regularly have lots of injuries. I mean, that's normal for Wales in this one. Alwyn Jones coming back and playing a record test match, and he deliberately wanted to play Italy at home. Well, one of the kind of listening to the Attacking Scrum podcast is like, oh, look, he wants to do it against Italy, and all his other milestone games have been losses. Come back and play Italy and do it with a win. Oops, all went a bit wrong there.
Yep. Yeah, very much so, and I think that disappointment probably came through somebody like Dan Biggar, who I think was the skipper for the team for the day. Very, very disappointed and basically just wanted his team to get off the pitch. But yeah, probably not. I hope he thought long and hard about it. Whilst it wasn't Wales' day. At the end of the day, I think you got to look at the bigger picture, and they were outplayed by a team that took their opportunities. And boy, I'm just going to say, not just that, they almost scored another brilliant try from their own in goal area as well. And man, it's fantastic to see. And it just seems as though Kieran Crowley has just got this team maybe just playing a little bit more of an expensive style, and with some of these young guys that are coming through in their under 20 program, that's just extracting a little bit of flair into the side, and it's great to see.
Yeah, look, really happy for Kieran Crowley. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And that try, which was almost a try, was only Josh Adams. He came flying in, and it was a brilliant tackle on the corner. Wow, it was just I think it was Monty Ioane on the left wing.
Yep.
Yeah, spectacular stuff. So look, really happy for Italy. Hopefully, they can kind of build some momentum from this, albeit at the bottom end of the Six Nations. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where to from now for Wales, particularly Wayne Pivak, because there'll be some big, there'll be some calls for him to exit. So it'll be interesting times at Wales HQ.
Yeah, look, people have not been happy with Wayne Pivak, even when he's been winning. The style of rugby has not been there, as you say. A lot of it has come down. A lot of it's been seen as being luck with those red cards, rather than actually a good game plan that's working. So yeah, we'll see what happens to Wayne Pivak. Moving on though, and a man who isn't about to lose his job is Mr. Farrell, who's just beat Scotland 26-5, or his team did there. Scotland. What is going on with them at the moment? They come back from their last game where they lost to, they beat Italy, and 4 players, including the captain Hogg, Finn Russell, Ali Price, so 3 British and Irish Lions, and also Tuipulotu, go out for a beer in a pub and break the bubble. Now, is there anything big about going out for a beer? No, there isn't. Is there something big about your captain and 2 of your senior players breaking agreed team rules? Yes, there is. Things clearly are not happy in the in the Scotland camp. Something is going wrong there. Townsend has not got his leadership team on board. And fine, they can say, "Oh yeah, things have been patched up and it's been dealt with. And we're all focused on the game." Damn bullshit. At the end of the day, they need that's. I've got a funny feeling that Townsend needs to go, unfortunately, because he's just not got the players on side.
Yeah, look, gentlemen, I have to say something regarding coaches. I think in the modern day, because the demands are so high and clear, because everyone's trying to get one on top of each other as far as innovation, competitive advantage, analysis, so on and so forth. I think lifespan of coaches need to be significantly looked at. My view of the world is that we can't have the same coach coaching for too long. All it does is it just brings in a level of staleness. We got to keep that edge, the innovation, and hopefully, this doesn't come and bite the All Blacks on the backside with what's currently happening. But if you look at all coaching patterns and coaching personnel, particularly to do with guys like Eddie Jones, we're starting to see a significant lack of innovation, and some of the players not responding to some of the tactics and strategies they bring on game day. So I think this needs to be really looked at. Gregor Townsend's no different. He had his patch of brilliance, and the reality is now you're only as good as your last game. People have very, very short memory spans. You can be. Look what's happened to Mr. Wayne Pivak. I mean, Wayne's not the most lovable of people or coaches because he's very abrasive and he's very black and white. Last year he was a hero, and now almost everyone's actually calling for his head. So I think there has to be a level of freshening up, and I think coaches, much like players, need sabbaticals as well. And this is something High Performance has to look at. Last year at NZR High Performance workshop, I put this across, and some of the coaches went, "Whoa, what's this guy on about?" But I think there is merit to a sabbatical for coaches, purely to give them a chance to go away, get a bit of a refresher, and actually, energize themselves with a bit of innovation.
I see where you go for. I think things you do need to keep things from stop them from going stale. There are a number of ways of doing that. I mean, you don't necessarily have to take a sabbatical to do that. I remember when not Steve Hansen, the one before him. Oh, gone blank. When Ted was in charge, him, Hansen, and Wayne Smith switched roles to try and freshen things up. Whereas before, so whoever was attack coach became set piece coach, and set piece coach became defense coach, and so forth. So you can go off in between times and go and sit with, go and learn from an NFL team to give yourself during your off season. There are other ways of doing it than necessarily than taking sabbatical, but you are quite right. You do have to keep freshening things up. I'm not sure Eddie Jones's way of basically changing all the assistant coaches every other year is the way to do that. But but hey, that England environment has changed a lot.
Paul, I was going to say there's a really good example of a team that's freshened themselves up with a coach. Listen, Joe Schmidt was in charge of the Irish team there for a good period of time, and took that team to some really good victories over the All Blacks. I think he might have got somewhere in there. There's a Grand Slam as well. A couple of other good results, maybe one against the Springboks too, as well. But I think the change has just come at the perfect time, because all of a sudden we're seeing Andy Farrell stamping his own mark on this Irish team. Boy, they're tough up front, and once again, whilst it wasn't a vintage Irish performance, they still knew how to outmuscle Scotland when they can, and at times showed the flair that they're capable. And that flair has all come from, in my opinion, Andy Farrell's coaching, and a lot of that, especially through his rugby league background.
Joe Schmidt had a winning record against South Africa and Australia, 4-2 and 3-2 with records against those two teams, Australia and South Africa. The only teams he didn't have a winning record against were England and New Zealand, and also Wales, where he had he had 1-1, 1-5, drew 1, lost 4. So again, he had a winning record there. So he had a winning record against every team apart from England and New Zealand, and he got 2 wins over New Zealand when they never had that one. Look, he had a fantastic record there with them. What Farrell is doing, which Joe Smith also managed to do, was to have a team that was doing really well between Rugby World Cups. And the real test of Farrell will be: does he have a good team going in 2023, or has he done? Which I think it's a bit of a cliche. I'm not sure if it is true, but the peaking between World Cups that Schmidt was accused of. Will Farrell get accused of that again? We'll see. But at the moment, look, they've got he's doing a good job there. But again, he was there for the 4 years prior to, or at least 4 years prior to becoming head coach, in the same way that Ian Foster was. I think. Well, Ian Foster was 8 years actually. So it was an evolution internally with that one. Just to Maniasi Kua Leolona, sorry I butchered your name there, but he's asking, do I have a Moana jersey? No, I don't have a Moana jersey, but I'd love to have one for the next live if you fancy giving one. But I'll be honest, why couldn't they have stuck with the jersey they had last year for their exhibition game? That was a very cool, distinctive jersey. This one is now a blue jersey, and we've got lots of blue jerseys around the world, but we don't have any of that cloth jersey. I forgot what it was designed, but it was a white, but it was designed like the Pacific cloth, and that was unique and special. Sorry, Bar?
The tupper cloth.
Thank you. I'm showing my ignorance coming from the Western Hemisphere and up north around that stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a very cool jersey. Shame they changed it. Finally, then France beat England 25-13. I think we all expected that one to happen, as you said. Eddie Jones has just not got this attack going with England this time. Again, no tries. One try in this one just after half time, but 18-6 at half time, and France eased their way in to a what's the word I'm looking for? To a Grand Slam. Not their sort of scintillating performances in the last 2 games, but doing what championship teams do, which is make sure they win and look comfortable doing it.
Key moment for me. Key moment just before just before half time, England are on attack. They turn a ball over. France go all the way downfield, and then Cross gets across for the try just on half time, which Chamonix converts in 18-6. And that was just a bridge too far for England. Even though Stewart came back with a very good try, they came back to five points, but almost felt France had another gear to go to, and really in that last 10 minutes or so, I thought they managed the game very well.
I think with France and Ireland, the key innovation they've actually done is the breakdown, the way they ruck. There are large portions of illegal tactics in there, but they get away with it, and the referees just don't seem to pay attention. What they do is they actually blow the player straight off their feet, the would-be jackler, and they drive them beyond where the ruck is, and they take them off their feet, and they actually pin them onto the floor. And that allows for the second man coming into the ruck to maintain his feet, and allows for what you call LQB, lightning quick ball. Now, if you look at what's happening in the Southern Hemisphere, particularly here in Super Rugby Pacific, we have players who enter into a ruck in what you call a static mode. They stand up. They don't go past where the ball is. And what this does, when we're up against teams who want to contest the breakdown, who want to contest the ruck, we are susceptible to counter-rucking. Because what happens is our shoulder position is not in a great situation. We're standing quite upright. And the opponents coming into the counter-ruck, they manage to get their shoulders into that waistline area, and they drive us over. Now, we saw what happened last year in the All Black season, particularly in the rucks. How many times did we get counter-rucked? So this is a big, big problem I see only compounding, because in all the Super Rugby Pacific games, I only saw the Crusaders probably do something similar to what the Irish did for about 10 minutes when they were behind against Moana Pacifica for a little while. So this is something which particularly the Irish and also the French do really well. The difference between the French and Irish game is that France don't play attack shapes, the very traditional 1-3-3-1. They're just running. They run into gaps. Whereas Ireland, they tend to play really good shapes. And once they get their forwards really cleaning out and getting fast ball, and I have to give to Jameson Park, he's done a tremendous job, particularly with the type of ball he's getting. He's releasing the backs. Whereas if we look at what some of the Southern Hemisphere sides are doing, we're not doing that. So unless the referees start penalizing the Northern Hemisphere teams for actually going off their feet and actually stealing the player or pinning the player down, watch out. I think the balance of power is going to change.
So it's one of the things I've seen that's been described is that France are playing similar to South Africa, and that they have like the 6-2 bench, and they're not playing in their own half and kicking everything in it. So they play when they're in the opposition half, which is an interesting one. And that whereas Ireland are going more of an Australia route of just trying to play at pace and just play each phase a little bit quick, each ruck a bit quicker until it's lightning quick. And so that was New Zealand and England are basically stuck in between, not sure which way to go, either a tactical way or a fast way. But I can see you totally confused with those points about.
I have to disagree very strongly. France and South Africa are not the same. France do not Uber from breakdown to breakdown. Their players actually make more meters than the water carriers, and they play fast open rugby. So I don't know where that comparisons come from. Yes, the bench 6-2 breakdown, yeah, absolutely. But the French, what they do really well is unstructured rugby, and they just run it. They just run it at pace, and they're very, very good at it. So they've probably found their mojo, but let's see how well they can bring the same form line into next year's World Cup.
And one of the things that's annoying me so much, especially, obviously, I only see the English media or the English language media. Sorry, not English media. And all the English language media seem to be going, wow, look what's I've gone blank now. It's the English defence coach that's there. Used to be with Wales. What's his name?
Sean Edwards.
Thank you. So Sean Edwards, they were like, well, look what Sean Edwards has done with this team. Like, he's the defence coach. He might be the only one you can speak to and actually speaks English you can understand, but it's not all him. There's this Fabien Galtier and these other French coaches speaking French to the players who have also done a lot of this stuff as well. And so this idea that it's that amongst English media that how it's Sean Edwards because hey, we can understand what he says, really does annoy the hell out of me, and shows a total lack of respect for the French-speaking coaches that are there in that one. So yes, he is part of it, but no one said that everything that Warren Gatland did was good with Wales was because of Sean Edwards, right? So yeah, to me that's not fair on the French coaches. Cool. Anything else, boys? I think we've covered everything that I wanted to talk about.
Listen, it was just and just in summary, I think it was just a really great tournament. There's not too many times over the years we down this end of the world we can be a little bit critical of the Six Nations at times, and we kind of look at a team like Italy and think, oh, did they deserve to be there? Well, they shoved one up me, I've got to say, and in that respect, I've been one of their big critics, and boy, I couldn't be more happy for them and the style in which they actually won that game. Listen, it wasn't penalties or anything like that, and the tournament itself, we've seen some really, really good, attractive rugby.
Yeah, you're sitting rather uncomfortably there, Stephen. And Knox on Right says, yeah, also think a Big 12 is critical. Look, we've overrun. A discussion point for another day is does New Zealand actually have a 12 in the entire country? And do we have a dearth of good international 12s globally as well? So that's something that we'll peg for another day. Any final points, Bella?
Well, what I'd like to see is a bit more innovation from Super Rugby Pacific. I think it's just got a little bit stale. Same attack shapes, same sort of strike moves. So hopefully, with this kind of half a bye week, albeit due to COVID, I'd like to see a little bit more innovation and actually really step up in the ruck collision area, because that is, to me, starting to become a real issue. And given that the way the referees are actually policing it, in what we saw in Six Nations, they are actually allowing players to fly off their feet, drive beyond the ruck, and actually hold players down. So unless we start resorting to something similar, the New Zealand sides, particularly the All Blacks, against some of the top Northern Hemisphere sides, will probably struggle in the breakdown area. And for me, that's a real concern. And I'd never ever thought in a million years I'd actually say that, but I have.
There we go. This weekend, hopefully, I will get to Moana Pacifica versus the Hurricanes on Friday, if it happens. And also to the Chiefs versus the Crusaders on the Saturday as well. So hopefully I'm making it to 2 games this weekend. And also a week on Tuesday, folks, there will hopefully, looks like it's Moana Pacifica will have to back up and play the Blues after playing on the Friday night. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes as well. But thank you everybody for listening, and catch you all next Monday at 8 p.m.